Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel, The Loophole Asterisk. While you scroll through headlines about celebrity scandals and tech moguls, the world's most powerful fortunes move in complete silence. The richest people you've never heard of control more wealth than some countries. Yet their names rarely appear in any database. How do billions of dollars vanish from public view? And why do the ultra-wealthy spend fortunes to ensure you'll never know they exist? This is the story of financial invisibility, a sophisticated system that allows the world's wealthiest individuals to operate beyond the reach of media, governments, and even tax authorities, while names like Musk and Bezos dominate headlines. Another tier of wealth exists in the shadows, using legal structures, offshore networks, and strategic silence to remain completely anonymous. Forbes Wealth Research 2024. These aren't conspiracy theories. They're documented strategies deployed by family offices, private banks, and wealth managers across every continent. The timing matters because recent leaks, from the Panama Papers to the Pandora Papers, have revealed just how vast these hidden systems have become. International Consortium of Investigative Journalists, 2021. Yet even these exposes barely scratch the surface of a world designed to be impenetrable. The modern architecture of financial secrecy began after World War II, when Swiss banking laws formalized client anonymity as a national principle. Swiss Banking Association historical records. By the 1970s, offshore tax havens in the Caribbean and Channel Islands had created legal frameworks, allowing anyone to establish companies with no public ownership records. Wealth could be placed in trusts that lasted generations, controlled by nominees, whose names appeared on paper while the real owners stayed invisible. The 1980s brought the family office revolution. Ultra-wealthy dynasties established private companies to manage their fortunes, operating with less regulation than public banks or investment firms. Family Office Association data, 2023. These offices employed former intelligence operatives, tax attorneys, and public relations specialists whose sole job was maintaining secrecy. By the 2000s, these structures had become so sophisticated that even governments struggled to track capital flows. The 2008 financial crisis briefly threatened this system when public anger demanded transparency. But the reforms that followed contained loopholes large enough to drive container ships through. Delaware, South Dakota, and Nevada in the United States became domestic tax havens offering privacy protections, rivaling any foreign jurisdiction. Tax Justice Network Report, 2024. The ultra-wealthy didn't need distant islands anymore. They could disappear legally using addresses in Middle America, according to financial transparency organizations. Between $32 and $36 trillion currently sit in offshore structures worldwide. Oxfam Inequality Report, 2024. These aren't illegal assets necessarily, but they exist in legal gray zones designed to obscure ownership. Court records from recent asset recovery cases have confirmed that beneficial ownership, the term for who really controls an asset, can be hidden behind 7 or 8 layers of shell companies spanning multiple countries. U.S. Department of Justice Financial Crimes Division. Investigative journalists have documented specific techniques. Trusts established in New Zealand can own companies registered in the British Virgin Islands, which hold bank accounts in Singapore, which invests through Swiss intermediaries. Guardian Investigations Unit, 2023. Each jurisdiction protects the next layer. Breaking through requires court orders in multiple countries, a process that can take years and cost millions. Former wealth managers who left the industry have described their work in rare interviews. One reported that clients paid up to $2 million annually just for structural maintenance, legal fees, and registered agent costs to keep ownership invisible. Financial Times Whistleblower Feature, 2024. The expense alone indicates how valuable anonymity has become to those who can afford it. Privacy advocates argue that financial secrecy serves legitimate purposes beyond tax avoidance. political dissidents, domestic abuse survivors, and entrepreneurs in unstable countries use these structures to protect assets from authoritarian regimes or violent actors. Privacy International Policy Paper 2023. Not everyone hiding wealth is doing so for corrupt reasons. Some face genuine security threats if their holdings become public. Knowledge.legal experts point out that much of this system operates within the boundaries of law, even if it contradicts the spirit of transparency regulations. Using offshore structures isn't automatically illegal. The question is whether the line between legal tax planning and illegal evasion has become so blurred that enforcement has become nearly impossible. American Bar Association Tax Law Review. However, critics counter that when billionaires pay lower effective tax rates than middle-class workers. Legal doesn't mean just Institute for Policy Studies Inequality Analysis 2024. The debate continues over whether the system should exist at all. Regardless of its technical legality, the consequences of hidden wealth extend far beyond tax revenue. When billionaires avoid contributing to public systems, the burden shifts to ordinary workers through higher taxes or reduced services. Schools, hospitals, and infrastructure suffer from chronic underfunding, while private fortunes grow invisibly. OECD Economic Impact Assessment 2024. This isn't abstract policy. It translates to overcrowded classrooms, longer hospital wait times, and crumbling roads in communities that desperately need investment. Developing nations face even starker impacts. When corrupt officials hide stolen public funds in offshore accounts, entire populations lose access to resources meant for development. United Nations Conference on Trade and Development report. The money that could have built clean water systems or medical clinics instead sits in secret accounts, managed by professionals who ask no questions about its origin. Think of the global financial system as a massive ocean. Most people swim near the surface where everything is visible and regulated. But the ultra-wealthy have discovered how to dive into deep trenches where sunlight never reaches and no authority patrols. They're not breaking the rules of the surface. They've simply found a dimension where different rules apply. This matters because democracy relies on a basic social contract. Everyone contributes according to their means. When the wealthiest citizens can opt out of that contract entirely while still enjoying its benefits, the entire system destabilizes Harvard political economy research. It's not sustainable to have two separate realities. One where wealth is visible and taxed. Another where it simply disappears. The technology enabling this secrecy is also evolving. Cryptocurrency and digital assets are creating new frontiers for financial invisibility that regulators barely understand. MIT Technology Review Financial Analysis 2024. The problem is growing more complex, not less. We know that tens of trillions of dollars exist in structures designed for invisibility. We know the techniques are legal in most jurisdictions. We know the system serves both legitimate privacy needs and illegitimate tax evasion. What we don't know is the full extent of who benefits and how much wealth has truly vanished from public accountability. The next chapter of this story depends on whether societies decide to shine light into these shadows or accept financial invisibility as the new permanent reality. International pressure for transparency is mounting. The OECD has proposed global minimum tax rates and beneficial ownership registries that could force disclosure. OECD Tax Policy Brief 2024. Implementation, likelihood, medium. Too many powerful interests benefit from the current system to expect change without sustained political will. Technology could cut both ways. Blockchain might make transactions more traceable, or it might create even deeper anonymity through sophisticated privacy protocols. Near-term trajectory, uncertain. What seems most likely is incremental reform. Some jurisdictions will increase transparency while others compete to offer secrecy services. The ultra-wealthy will continue finding new structures faster than regulators can close old loopholes. This isn't a problem that gets solved. It's a dynamic that evolves. The invisibility of extreme wealth isn't a glitch in the system. It's a feature, carefully constructed and jealously guarded. Whether that continues depends on choices societies make about how much secrecy they're willing to tolerate in exchange for attracting capital. The blueprint exists. The only question is whether the public will demand to see who's using it. If this investigation opened your eyes to hidden systems, watch next. The trust fund trap. Why generational wealth never disappears. Understanding how money moves in shadows is the first step toward accountability. Source notes and disclaimer. This analysis draws from financial transparency organizations, investigative journalism, court records, and policy research from 2021 through 2024. The accusation remains fluid as new information emerges and regulations evolve. Claims about specific individuals or entities reflect reported allegations and should not be considered definitive without independent verification. This content is for educational purposes and does not constitute financial or legal advice.